is a Glock 17 Gen 5 with some tasteful modifications that we'll touch on later. This is a full-sized 9mm striker-fired handgun, and it lives up to Glock's moniker of perfection. Let's talk about it a little bit. Let's kick it off with some rapid-fire stats about this Glock 17. It is a striker-fired pistol with a polymer grip. It has a 4.49-inch barrel. You know those Austrians, they got to be precise. It is a 9mm handgun, and the standard magazine capacity for this gun is 17 rounds, though of course you can get longer magazines up to and including 33-round sticks. The unloaded weight on this gun is 22.2 ounces. It has a 4.9-pound trigger pull. It has a rear notch sight and a front dot sight in the classic Glock fashion. In terms of ambidextrous features, it has ambidextrous slide release, and I believe that's it. In terms of safety, it just has the classic Glock trigger safety. And the MSRP on this gun is about $560, though the street price may vary a little bit. On this particular gun, the only modification that I have performed is I put on a Zafiri Precision threaded and somewhat fluted barrel, which allows it to accept a suppressor, and I also just really like the look of it. Everything else about this Glock is completely stock, which you'll see as we shoot it. So inside-out disassembly of the Glock 17, if you've ever disassembled a Glock, it's pretty much the same way. You pull the slide back just a little bit, you pinch it with these fingers, you pull down on these two levers, you pull the trigger, and the slide comes off. Obviously, make sure you clear the gun before you try to disassemble a Glock, because you do have to pull the trigger when you are disassembling it. Once it's disassembled, everything is pretty standard. You've got a captive recoil spring that holds the barrel in place. You can remove that, clean all of the parts, and then for putting it back together, you quite literally just have to line up the notches, rack the gun, and it is reassembled. It really is about as easy as it gets. So now that we know a little bit about this Glock, let's take it out to the range and shoot it. All right, back out of the range with the Glock 17. Now this gun is basically stock with the exception of the threaded barrel that I added, and that is a barrel by Zafiri Precision. So let's just shoot it a little bit, talk about it a little bit. So if you've never shot a Glock, they all shoot pretty similarly, all the way down to the tiny little single stack ones up to the really big, G34s or G17Ls or whatever. The defining feature, in my opinion, of a Glock, well, there are two really. One of them is the trigger. So you can see that the trigger on a Glock has an extra little safety component. That is the only safety on the Glock that prevents the trigger from being pulled unless you depress that and have a good pull of the trigger. Glock triggers are not exceptional. They're something that people often change out. I don't like to modify the triggers on my carry guns for a number of reasons, but that is a legitimate complaint, I suppose, about most Glocks. The other really defining feature of Glocks are the iron sights. And the iron sights on a Glock, if you get in on that, they are a very distinct white notch and dot. And again, pretty much every Glock looks the same. Now, I don't necessarily love stock Glock sights, but they're not the worst. They're certainly doable. Now, all Glocks use polymer magazines. The Glock 17 has a 17-round magazine. And 17-round mags do make it feel like you can pretty much shoot all day and never run out. Now, I'm carrying this today in a Tolster Profile Plus. I've got that spare magazine carrier from Crucial Concealment in my brand new M81 Woodland camo training shorts. Yeah, let me back it up just a little bit, shoot from a slightly farther distance. Shooting at 5 to 10 yards, obviously not the world's greatest grouping of all time, but you get a sense for, obviously, if you're shooting at a man-sized target, you're going to be able to land those rounds pretty nicely. So that's what we can do shooting this guy casually. Let's now step it up and do the speed and accuracy test for the Glock 17. All right, so part of the point of comparing these guns is for you to be able to understand how well they actually perform in scenarios that you might use. So we do apples to apples test for speed and accuracy. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to do one shot drawn from concealment, then we're going to do a tactical reload and 3 more shots at about 5 yards. Then I'm going to run back to 10 yards and I'm going to shoot until I hit a bullseye. We'll see how many shots that takes and how quickly I'm able to do it. All right, let's go.
Shooter, are you ready?
Ready. Bullseye. All right, first shot, 167, and an 1103 overall. That is actually pretty solid. So I know my first shot from concealment was right here. Then I danced around the bullseye for my next couple. And then it was on my second shot, I believe, back from at 10 yards that I nailed the bullseye. First one I know went high, next one corrected down low. Honestly, very impressed by the performance out of this Glock, especially relative to the X5 Legion before. Now, I do have a lot more trigger time with Glocks than I do with any SIG products. I'll fully disclose that. But yeah, guys, I think that speaks to why so many police departments and people who do it for a living choose to carry Glocks, and specifically Glock 17s. Back from the range, let's talk about highlights and lowlights with this Glock 17 Gen 5, and this is going to be a very front-heavy dialogue. Highlights: I like the trigger, I like the sights, I like the sight radius, I like the recoil impulse, I like the angle of the grip. I like basically everything about this gun. Lowlights, the only lowlight I can really come up with is it's on the bigger side, so if you are trying to carry it and draw from concealment and all those kinds of things, can be a little bit trickier, but that also can work to your advantage. If you've concealed it properly, it then gives you a lot to grab onto to draw it and draw it quickly. I am definitely a Glock fanboy. I will wear that badge with pride. I think that Glock 17 is one of the best handguns that you can own. Is it great at everything? No, but it's pretty good at damn near anything. So with that, let's get into the rating for the Glock 17 Gen 5. Starting in the utility category with caliber effectiveness, it runs 9mm, 17 rounds in the magazine, or many more depending on what magazine you want to run. You can put a lot of lead downrange very quickly. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. In carryability, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well. It's really only getting dinged for not having a manual safety, which some people may not like, and the fact that it's a little bit larger and make it more difficult to conceal for some. But if you can conceal it, it's a really great gun to rock and roll. Lastly, customizability. And Glock and customization are basically synonymous. You could change out every single part on this gun if you wanted to. Would it make it any better? I don't know, but you have that option. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for customizability. There is no other gun on the market that you can modify to your liking better than a Glock 17. Novelty category, starting with fun factor, I'm going to give this gun a 5 out of 10. It's really good at basically everything it does, but it's not flashy, it's not particularly fun to shoot. It's a tool, right? It does its job well. 5 out of 10 on fun factor. Cultural significance, I'm going to give this gun a 9 out of 10. This gun has showed up in so much media. Everybody recognizes a Glock 17. It's used by so many agencies, law enforcement, people who do this for a living. It's really indisputable. And then value for money, I'm also going to give it a 9 out of 10. You can pick these up for mid 500s, sometimes even lower, and you get so much gun for your money. And as mentioned before, you can modify this to be really however you want it to be. So that's how I'm going to rate this Glock 17. Final thoughts: if you are looking for a great do-it-all gun that you should be able to carry, should be able to conceal, and certainly can serve as an excellent bedside gun as well as a ranged tool, the Glock 17 pretty much does it all. Really, its only drawback is its size, and if you like the Glock 17 but wanted it a little bit smaller, they've got a Glock 19 or even smaller that you can go and get a lot of the same features on. I personally love the 17 for its size and everything that brings with it, and I love carrying it in all of my carrier apparel from Arrowhead Tactical. So if you need athletic apparel for safe and comfortable concealed carry to support your active lifestyle, come check us out at arrowheadtacticalapparel.com. We've got tons of styles and sizes that will definitely live up to your expectations. Like always, thank you for watching, stay comfortably prepared, and we'll see you next time.